Hey, are we recording? How many times is too many times to buy something? Like, the same thing. Jess jokes with me a lot that once I find a thing that I like, I just buy as many of it as possible so that I don't run out. Cotton, which is a company that focuses on ethically sourced cotton goods, has great t-shirts, and their mediums might be the only mediums that I still fit into. Naked and Famous is a company out of Montreal that makes ethically sound jeans. I buy exactly 2 pairs of the Easy Guy cut every year, and when I wear through one, I replace it. I want to acknowledge that as a man, the standards of dress foisted upon me are negligible when compared to the unrealistic standards that women deal with when it comes to fashion and always looking both like themselves and like some impossible ideal of perfect. Anyway, if anyone from Cotton or Naked and Famous is listening, yes, we are looking for sponsorship. Recently, there were a bunch of posts in my tail end Gen X algo about Evil Empire. That's the second Rage Against the Machine album. It recently turned 30 years old. For the Gen Zs listening, you know who Granddaddy is, right? Well, Tom Morello, that hangs out with Granddaddy, he had a band in the 90s called Rage Against the Machine. They were a very big deal. Growing up where I did and when I did, small town Canada, late 1900s, I was so hungry for anything that was not Garth fucking Brooks or Sheryl Crow that I ended up buying Evil Empire on tape. After a few weeks, I would invariably leave the tape in someone's car or leave it at the house of some new best friend that would never talk to me again. Tapes, by the way, are the best format for music. I stand by it. Anyway, I bought Evil Empire, the second Rage Against the Machine album, on tape 4 times. I don't currently own a copy of Evil Empire, but I streamed it last week when everyone in my tail-end Gen X algo was posting about it being 30 years old, and I can see what my 15-year-old self was so stoked on. I'm Josh LIndley, and this is Branching Out. The only piece of media that I've purchased more times than Evil Empire is The Bar Book, written by today's guest, Jeffrey Morgenthaler. The Bar Book came out amongst a flurry of super important, and in a lot of cases, career-defining bar and cocktail books. The PDT book had come out a year or so earlier. The Death & Co. book came out around the same time. But Morgenthaler's The Bar Book focused entirely on technique and not so much flavor identification or recipe construction. That's why I have loaned it to basically every bartender I've ever trained or worked with, which is why I have purchased it more times than I've purchased Evil Empire. When you write a book that impactful, after writing a blog for years, it's no wonder that both Shawn Soole and Brant Porter named Jeff Morgenthaler as one of their big influences and why we have him on the show today. Here's Jeffrey Morgenthaler on Branching Out. Hi, Jeff Morgenthaler.
Hi.
Welcome to Branching Out.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming. I didn't ask you to write a bio for me to read to everybody. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
My name's Jeffrey Morgenthaler, and I'm a bartender from Portland, Oregon.
What bars do you work at currently?
I'm on a bartending break. I am a consulting partner in Pacific Standard, but I am not behind the bar right now for the first time in 30 years. I've been bartending for most of my life.
And along that way, you've done some things that are bar adjacent as well, yeah?
1 or 2, yeah.
How many books have you written?
Just 2.
I mean, only.
Just 2. Yeah, only 2. But, we're working on a 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting.
And I think for a really long time, your blog served as inspiration to a lot of us.
I hope it still does. It's still there, and I still update it and, not doing it daily like I used to in the early 2000s, but I am still contributing to it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Where did the idea of sharing information that you would come across, why has that been such a driving force for you? I know that it's one thing to talk about reevaluating recipes. It's another thing entirely to share out your spreadsheets for how to batch, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was really influenced in the early 2000s by the open source community. I have always been a real computer dork. I just it's one of my hobbies. I just like to quote unquote play computers.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been like building computers and making websites and running. I've got a crazy server set up in my office right now that's like runs my whole home. But the open source thing, this idea that there was like no gatekeeping on information, no charging people for information. It was just a group of people that wanted to help and make the world a better place in their small little way. I really like that.
Mhm.
So I want, I want to do that too. I think that I don't know if there are many ways that a bartender can make the world a better place. I mean, we're literally just serving fucking poison to people.
Mhm.
But if I can help other bartenders be better at their job, have a better career, make more money, have more of a future, then I think that I'm making the world a better place in my own special, small way. And if some home users come along for the ride and get to make better drinks at home too for their friends, that's a nice bonus. So
Yeah,
that's been my
certainly.
mission. My mission statement for decades now has been that.
Did you go to school for playing computers?
No, I went to school for architecture.
Right.
I thought about it, but I was like, that's so boring. I don't want to just like be on a computer all the time.
I think maybe the play is as important as the computer in it, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it stops being, I don't know, it's like you don't really want your hobby to be the thing that you do every single day and get paid for it, because then it stops being a hobby and becomes but bartending was always my job and kind of my side hobby. It still is. So I don't know. I just like doing stuff.
I just like doing stuff.
I just like making stuff and doing stuff.
So Jeff is good, right? Are you a Jeffrey?
Yeah. Jeff's good.
Again, as established, we've been in the same room before, but never really hung out.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, question for you. How do you feel about Morgenthaler?
No, I mean, there aren't a lot of nicknames or disses that you can come up with either of my names. So Morgenthaler I thought was pretty clever.
It's pretty good. So the way that we do this podcast is that I'm talking with people about their inspiration, their mentors, their pillars in their career. And two different guys that I've spoken with in the last little while brought your name up.
Mm-hmm.
One was Brant Porter and one was Shawn Soole, both of them from Victoria.
Yeah. I love those guys.
And it's funny because we ask them to ask a question to the people that they say are their mentors, their pillars. And both of them asked almost polar opposite questions, but I'm going to ask you both. Brant wants to know.
I'd ask him how he managed to stay on the bar for so long, on top of managing, whether it be the bar manager or managing a business that he owns. Like, how did he find a balance to that? Did he find it easy? Did he find it hard? Yeah, that's my question. How did you stay on the bar that long?
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm not there is, when I'm there, I'm obsessed with, because I just see everything, right? So we own the brand, we consult, we license it to the hotel, and then the hotel executes our vision the best that a hotel can. And I've always worked with pure F&B people, operators, brilliant restaurateurs for almost all of my career, and that is a type of conversation that you have, every day, and everybody there is really passionate about F&B. When you're working with operators whose primary focus is not F&B, that can be a frustrating conversation. So you stop being there every day and just continue licensing the brand and hope that that everybody gets to 80 to 85% of your vision.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of things, Shawn Soole wanted me to ask
Jeffrey Morgenthaler, how does he stay inspired? How does he stay inspired when you don't necessarily work the bar every day, day in, day out, but you're still fingers in that pie? How does he stay inspired?
Oh, I mean, the thing is that, like, you go in and out of it too. There are some times where I'm just like feeling really excited about bartending and cocktails and stuff, and I've just got a new thing to work on. Like lately, I've been working on this slushy calculator that I just released, and so I've just been like, thinking about it all day, kind of every day, and working on it, and I've just been really inspired. And then I'll just go for months where I just kind of don't really think about it all that much, and I'm doing other stuff and trying to get inspiration, just life inspiration, from other sources. I'm out going for walks. I have a lot of hobbies. I go for long swims, I go for long walks, I still play computers, I cook a shit ton. But I don't think that you need to, if you have a job like this, or any sort of job that asks asks you to be inspired, I don't think that you need to be inspired 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like you don't have to eat, sleep, and live cocktail bullshit all the time. You can dip in and out of it.
I have a question for you. Just this is entirely self-serving, this question. So over the last 20 amount of years, all the ideas that 30, all the ideas that you've shared via your blog, via your books, the bar book specifically, I feel is something I know every time I'm working with a bartender and they're like, but how do you learn this? I have lost more copies of your book than any other thing I've ever owned.
Yeah. I hear that a lot.
Yeah. It might be worth putting it wouldn't benefit you at all, but it might be worth putting a foreword in there saying like, hey, whoever you borrowed this from, make sure you give it back.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to sell more copies here, not...
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm doing it for you, apparently.
Great, I appreciate it.
But there's so many things, whether, the way that you reapproach the French 75 or how you deal with mint or measuring ice dilution, all these ideas that you've shared out. One that sticks out, and I know maybe is relevant to how bars run now, was when you started aging Manhattans, specifically in barrels.
Yeah. Negroni was the big one that we...
Yeah, I know you told the story before, but can you go over it a little bit about how you got there?
Well, yeah, I had been in this bar in London. This was back when I think Twitter or Facebook were really big and not quite toxic cesspools. We're talking 2009 maybe. And I posted that I was there and somebody said, oh, ask for the bottle-aged Manhattan. And I was like, what's up with this bottle-aged Manhattan? And they were like, oh, it's, we put it in a glass bottle. We age it for 6 months and it the flavors become more integrated. And I was like, And I tried it and, it tasted like a Manhattan. I don't know about flavor integration. I don't even really know what that means or why it would be necessary. I don't know how long it takes to mix rye whiskey and vermouth. If the molecules get closer together over time, I don't fucking think that's true.
Okay.
But it did get me thinking. And I was like, I had this little 1 gallon barrel at home that I had been seasoning with Madeira wine, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I thought I was going to age some bitters or something like that. This was back in the day before everybody was aging bitters or aging anything besides whiskey and, rum and tequila. So I just had the idea. I just dumped a Manhattan in there and put it in for a month or something and took it out, and it was really good. And, the Tuttletown distillery, which I think is now defunct. Are they still around?
Oh, I don't know. I know who you're talking about, but I couldn't tell you the last time I...
Yeah, the Hudson Rye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I've seen them at all. Anyway, they were selling their little baby barrels. They were aging everything in these 2.5 to 5 gallon barrels, and they had...
I feel like they used to, when you could buy the rye from them, but then they would also give you a little toasted, a tiny toasted stave that you could chuck into the bottle with it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was because of the barrel-aged cocktail thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they were selling their barrels and I think having a hard time getting rid of them. So I bought a few of those bourbon barrels, and I just thought that a Negroni would taste really good. I always love a Boulevardier, and I just thought, and it was, it just turned out really cool. The flavors, rather than being more integrated, things like the vermouth got a little bit oxidized. You picked up some of that wood, you picked up some of that whiskey. It just got different in a really pleasant way. And of course, I put it on my website, and it just became a worldwide phenomenon, which is super cool, super crazy. I mean, I guess there was a bar. I don't know if it's still around. There was a bar in maybe Singapore or something that was a barrel-aged cocktail bar. That's all they did was barrel-aged cocktails. And they had all these massive, I think they had Solera systems and all these barrels up and down the walls of cocktails. And I was just that's crazy. That's my thing that I came up with in my in my apartment.
So when you had that idea, you didn't see people running with it necessarily. It was just something you were trying to do.
Oh, yeah. No, I never do anything because I want to people, I just put it out there because I thought it was cool. I thought maybe people would be interested in it. It never comes from a place of wanting people to I don't know, praise me or, credit me or anything like that. It's just, I just like sharing this stuff out here.
Okay, so this is where potentially this talk goes sideways, either between you and I or whoever's listening. Do you think there's a correlation between your idea, 20 question mark years ago, 15 question mark years ago, combining a cocktail, aging it in a barrel, or, from this bar in London where they aged it in a bottle, and how seemingly 90% of cocktail bar menus are now everything is pre-batched and poured directly from a bottle? Do you see a correlation there?
I think it certainly added to the conversation the idea that pre-batched cocktails were a good thing. I mean, one of the reasons why we were so into the barrel-aged cocktails was they were pre-batched. We could make them very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We were a super high volume spot. We were in the Ace Hotel, right in the very heart of Portland, the living room figuratively, the living room of the city. I mean, it was just tourist time and the place was just packed to the rafters every single night. And we needed to get drinks in hands. We only had two bartenders, and we never really had barbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So we were cranking. And if we could just take a tiny bit of pressure off and, do a one-touch pour, rather than a 3 or 4 or 5 touch pour. That meant that we could serve a few more people. We could put a few more dollars in the bank. We could keep the place alive for a few more years.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, pre-batch cocktails, I think, were a really good idea for a high volume spot. They brought delicious cocktails to the masses,
Mm-hmm.
where it wasn't a fussy 20-seat cocktail bar where everything took 15 minutes. It was just like, you want a badass cocktail that you've never had before, you can have it in fucking 30 seconds. Now, where that has gone a little bit awry, I think, is I think that we have fetishized prep, and
Mm-hmm.
that has become the sort of like essence of the bartender's craft, has been everything that happens from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. behind closed doors in a basement prep kitchen. And that part, when you do that and that's all you think about is the prep and the all of the tricks and the science and all of the shit that you do to make this cocktail happen, I think that you lose sight of actual bartending in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where we've gotten now, is there's just like, I mean, when you mentioned 50 best, when you look at the 50 best lists, like most of those bars are, well, first of all, they're all cocktail bars, which is the thing that I just think is the most bizarre. Like there's no other type of bar on there. They're all fancy cocktail bars. There's no wine bars or beer bars or, it's just cocktail bars, which is strange to me. But you look at those bars and I think most of them are really prep heavy. And I think that it sends the message to, not necessarily to consumers. I don't think consumers care about that really much at all, but I think that it sends the message to other bartenders that prep is the path to fame and glory. And that sucks. That kind of sucks. That makes me a little sad.
Yeah, there is a line that I find seems very hard to ride where, it's one thing to have a freezer martini that
totally.
I can just pour 3 ounces into a frozen glass for you and throw a lemon on it and you're great.
And you can do it while you're like telling jokes and talking shit and checking in on people and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I also feel like there's real value in being able to tell jokes and talk shit while making an actual drink as well, right?
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Enough about that. Now, where did you come from? Who are some of the people that along your path, whether you started bartending in college or whatever, who really pushed you into this? And when did you decide that bartending was important for you? Who brought you up?
Well, it was supposed to be just a summer job and I was terrible at it and I didn't like it. They didn't really like me, but there was a really great team at the first bar that I worked at. I started in 96 and it was a neighborhood tavern. I was the only guy that worked there. It was me. The entire staff was women, female-owned bar. She started it in 1933 when Prohibition ended, and she just phased out and sold it to a family right when I came on. It was all women, and they had all been there for like 20, 30 years, right? Everybody was older than me. Some of these ladies were in their 60s, pushing 70, and they really kind of like took me under their wings in a matronly sort of way, and it was sort of like, I was just a dumb fuck up, and I felt like they were kind of like,
we can smell our own.
let's, we don't necessarily like working with this guy because he's often late and whatever, but there's something there. And if we can just kind of like, help raise him a little bit, he'll get, to a place where, it maybe, I don't think any of them saw that I would be the bartender that I am now, but I think that they all hoped that I would just kind of end up being a better person if I took the job seriously and understood the job. And it was a really beautiful thing. It was a really beautiful place, and I'm not in touch with any of them. I think I would assume that most of them are dead, to be honest with you, except for my.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you brought that sort of, quasi-parental energy to any of the bars that you've opened when you have newer, younger,
Totally.
dumb fuck-ups that show up?
Totally. Yeah. I see myself in young dumb fuck ups, and I also see myself in bartenders that seem to enjoy it and are fun and like to have a good time. And so I kind of want to take that on as well. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, But I know quite a few, and for the most part, I am still really tight with most of the people that I've worked with. I mean, we've still got the group threads going from Clyde Common and Pepe La Mocha. Like we all to get together for drinks and lunches and barbecues and all that kind of stuff. It's a real family vibe.
Would you attribute part of that to being from Portland, which is an important city, but by no means a huge city?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've only lived here for 16 years, 17 years, something like that. I lived in Eugene, Oregon for 17 years before that. But yeah, I mean, I'm a small town guy. I like the small town vibe of everybody kind of knowing each other and looking out for each other and watching each other's backs. I think that's a good thing in a bartending community.
Certainly. Yeah. Who else specifically, other than these ladies who were substantially older than you and a little matronly, who else sticks out in your mind as being someone who really pushed you along to become the bartender you ended up becoming?
Well, I don't think he really he didn't know who I was, but Gary Regan was a big influence. I liked his, and still do, like his ideas around sharing knowledge. I also like that he never took himself too seriously. He's just a super knowledgeable guy that also just loved bartending and loved bartenders and loved having fun and, goofing around and talking shit. I'm lucky that I did eventually get to become friends with Gary, later on in his life. He was a big one for me. I read a lot of Paul Harrington in the 90s and early 2000s. That was super influential. That was like kind of the opposite of Gary. It was like, very much about the this really prosaic floral writing and cocktails were just so precious and wonderful. And I really took a lot of that with me too. I kind of see both sides. Cocktails can be precious and wonderful and beautiful and also be things to just like sort of chugged while you're hanging out with your friends.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Something that I think about a lot when talking about mentorship or people who bring you up. There was, again, 15 years ago or something, seeing Gary Regan on a panel talking about, yeah, sure, young people, you want to listen to your elders. Always pay attention to your elders. But also, you old fucks need to pay attention to the young idiots too.
Yeah, I try to never say that you need to listen to your elders out loud thing, because it's just like it's such a marker that you're just a out of touch old fuck. So I do the other thing that you were talking about. I try to tell my older peers to go easy on the younger generation, to be more accepting, and mentor them and help them, give them anything that they need for success.
Yeah. I think that was the way that Gary was saying it, was to balance that out. It's like, yeah, sure, pay attention. Like the people who are experienced, but also if you've got some new information, you need to be able to accept that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is like my time of sort of steering where the industry goes, of being hugely influential in like trends and stuff is over. And now I'm in the era where I'm just here to help kind of Sherpa the next generations and let them be successful and take the industry where, they see that it needs to be going. So I'm just there for that. I'm not going to be like famous again. I'm not going to be the hot young bartender on the in the New York Times or whatever ever again. And that's totally fine.
You still get asked to participate in different bar shows and whatnot, though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm out there doing stuff, but I'm not on the cutting, bleeding edge of cocktails or bars anymore. And that's fine. And
I think the way we've established already through talking that that was never the point of anything you were doing anyhow.
Never the point. The point. Yeah, and you can smell it on people when that is the point.
Mm-hmm. The people who want to be famous and are using bartending to get there, as though there isn't 1,000 better ways to get there.
No shit. And I have peers, I have people close to my age that I see still trying to like hang on to that. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Is there anyone either in and around Portland or people you're working with right now that you find particularly inspirational?
Gosh, yeah. I have a friend, Susan Choi, in Berlin, has a bar called Mr. Susan. And I just like, every time I go to her bar and hang out sort of, during operating hours at a seat at the bar, I'm always just blown away by how that bar is just fun and hospitable, but also kind of cutting edge and delicious. And then whenever we're hanging out and, I see like her whole prep thing and what she's doing behind the scenes, I'm also really impressed. Like, she's really carved out her own lane. Like me, she's a Californian. She's a Korean American Californian living in Berlin, married to a Dutch guy, like, and just like has just like settled into this awesome role for herself. That's really not. You see a lot of people who are just trying to mimic other people in the industry. And Susan doesn't do that. Susan's just her own person. Her bar has its own thing. And it's just not, she's just not trying to be famous or a copycat or anything like that. She's just like, one of my more favorite influences of the modern age. She's the first one that came to mind. There are countless others, but yeah, Susan's the first one that came to mind.
I will drink at any bar named Mr. Susan as well. That's a great bar name. Like right away, name. I'm in.
Great name. Yeah. It's great.
And much like Shawn and Brant had questions for you, if you had one question for Susan, what would it be?
Fuck. Do I have to answer this right now?
No, you can send it to me later. We'll plug it in.
Okay, great. Yeah.
We'll just use my voice.
You got to think about that one.
I'll do my best Jeff Morgenthaler impression when I ask her. All right, Jeff, thanks for hanging out for a half hour. It's the end of a podcast, and like the end of any podcast, how do people find you? How do people keep up on what you're doing?
Oh, I am at Jeff Morgan, Morgen, on Instagram, and that's where I tend to like post the most stuff. I also have my website, jeffreymorgenthaler.com. That's more of a static kind of library for you to go through of it's a historical record. But if you want to see what I'm doing right now, it's pretty much on Instagram. Yeah.
All right, Aces, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Amazing. Thank you.
Next time I see you, I will make a point of actually having a drink with you rather than just getting a batched thing from you.
Let's do that. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
All right. You too. Talk to you.
Bye. Thanks again to Jeff Morgenthaler for taking a half hour to hang out with me online. It's the first time he and I have had a real conversation outside of just batched cocktails. Also, no offense to anyone who batches their cocktails. Toronto Cocktail Conference is coming up. The early bird tickets went on sale this week. Jeff Morgenthaler will not be there, but there's a bunch of people that will be. We're very excited about the lineup for speakers this year. Go to torontococktailconference.com to check out how to get tickets for that. If you are still listening, go ahead and hit the stars button on whatever app you're listening to. Then tell everyone to listen to us, especially if you know someone that works at Cotton or Naked and Famous. Then head over to bartenderatlas.com and check out everything else on the site, including the join form, if you haven't already. Then follow Bartender Atlas on Instagram. Branching Out is written by me, Josh Lindley. Additional research by Charlotte Casanel. Music by Aaron Verdonk. Production and engineering by Aaron Verdonk and Jesse Colburn. All done here at Action Pact Studios in Toronto. Talk soon.